I think in film, everybody's always vying for power and control. He was one of the few directors I've worked for that was very kind and respectful. In my opinion, I find it very hard to believe the allegations against him. I feel like maybe Blake smelled his kindness, mistook it for weakness, and tried to take advantage and take power. So
you believe Blake Lively wrestled control of the film?
I think she tried to, yes.
She succeed in the end?
Probably, yeah.
Today, we dive into the shocking subpoena scandal that's got everyone talking and could take down more than just a gossip channel. Let's rewind. The legal battle between actress Blake Lively and director Justin Baldoni was already a ticking time bomb, stemming from the disastrous rollout of It Ends With Us.
Place feuds rarely get this ferocious or public. In fact, the contretemps you're about to see has blown up so spectacularly, Hollywood could make a movie about it. Actually, they probably won't occur because that's where this one happened, on a film set. And it involves two stars, supposed on-screen lovers who are now well and truly off-screen haters, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
Lively accused Baldoni of fostering a hostile and predatory environment, fueling a media smear campaign against her after she walked away from the project. Publicly, it looked like Blake was being difficult, but privately, insiders leaked damning allegations, forced rewrites, pressure to stay silent, and a legal strategy designed to crush her credibility.
So nosy.
And my nose is so big.
I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late. Just it's never meant to be. Last month.
You're not good today.
I'm probably getting a great fan on you.
God, we're good.
With the media in Baldoni's pocket and public sentiment swaying, Blake's legal team shifted gears. That's when the subpoenas started flying.
I don't think he had ever directed anything of this high profile. And then you landed Blake Lively, an actual movie star. It was outside the norms happening on the set of that film.
The only place that I can go as a Baha'i are to the writings of the Baha'i faith.
Only in
Because I
Hollywood
believe
can you find an outlandish plot like this. Baldoni is a devoted member of a religion most people have never heard of.
In our case, Baha'u'llah, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, they knew, and they know where we're going.
Her videos routinely dissect online drama, legal filings, and celebrity feuds. She Diabsid Bad already covered Blake versus Baldoni with a heavy hand, speculating, alleging, implying
Behaviour on that set that you noticed.
There was a lot of prayer. There was a lot of hugging. Justin has a proclivity towards talking about how he wanted to consult with God on certain creative decisions. One of the weirdest parts of this whole thing was that Blake, she claimed that Justin told her that he had been communicating with her dead father, who had passed away several years ago, which is so strange. And I think in this day and age, when Hollywood sets have become much more strict about what you can say and do and get away with, certain people found his behavior and some of the things that he was saying and some of the producers were saying highly objectionable.
Until one of her videos mysteriously vanished. Not for copyright, not for demonetization, but because she just received a subpoena. A real one. It was filed by attorneys connected to Baldoni's defense team, demanding raw video files, internal communications, and private messages with industry insiders. Why? Because in one clip, Katie referenced a private email chain allegedly leaked from a production assistant working on the film. If true, this would mean she was in possession of, or had contact with, confidential communications. That's discovery gold in a federal defamation case. Immediately, her fan base was split. Some defended her, claiming she was just doing her job, citing fair use and the First Amendment. But others weren't buying it. In a since-deleted Reddit post, one former moderator claimed that Katie was bragging.
He was one of the few directors I've worked for that, was very kind and respectful.
Talia Spencer worked on the film. For her, any suggestion Baldoni behaved poorly couldn't be further from the man she knows and respects. How did you first find out that you were going to be working on It Ends With Us?
I got an email from Justin, and then he called me out of nowhere and pitched to me the vision of the film. And so immediately I bought in and was like, yeah, I'm here for it. Like, you seem like you care a lot about the vision of what we're trying to do here, and you're not in it for fame. So I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's.
About being approached by Baldoni's legal team months ago, suggesting she may have had a longer, deeper involvement than she let on. Speculation began swirling that without a crystal, Ball was being used as a pawn, or worse, a mouthpiece for Baldoni's side. And it wasn't just viewers raising alarms. Last week,
Maybe Blake smelled his kindness, mistook it for weakness, and tried to take advantage and take power. So, yeah.
So you believe Blake Lively wrestled control of the film?
I think she tried to, yes.
Did she succeed in the end?
Probably, yeah. I think that there was a massive compromise in terms of Justin's original vision for the film.
Blake's attorneys filed a motion to quash the subpoena, calling it an unconstitutional fishing expedition, and accusing Baldoni's team of trying to weaponize independent creators to smear their client and muddy the court's perception. The motion alleged that Katie's video contained misleading and selectively edited commentary that mirrored talking points found in
No more speaking in certain terms about women, no more pretending that you can speak to dead people. It was about watching pornography. It was not burning certain types of incense. It was a long, broad list of things.
You have me. You love me.
I know.
So if I'm not what you want, you just...
No, I'm fine.
Quite like that, a director of a film banished to the underground?
No. I mean, it's hard to think of a similar situation in recent memory. You know, the director is the general on the film. And this was really supposed to be a watershed moment for Justin in his directing career, for him ultimately, to be relegated to some sort of drab room. It's hard not to chuckle, but it was crazy.
Field legal briefs. This suggests someone is leaking privileged documents to influencers. And Blake's team is now demanding an investigation into how Without a Crystal Ball got her hands on those files. The court hasn't ruled yet, but already the implications are staggering. Behind the scenes, the fallout was swift. In a series of leaked Discord messages, Katie allegedly tells mods, "If I get pulled into this trial, I'm not going down alone. I have receipts." Another message hints at a possible deal with Baldoni's PR team.
I've seen two sides come out with so much information in such a short amount of time, but the level of detail that is coming from both sides is...
What have you made of the tactics being employed?
I don't like it. As a publicist and being a PR professional for over 20 years, I'm a huge believer of ethics. My goal is not to hurt anyone else. My goal is to protect my client and to protect their image, whereas some people are in for the kill.
Offering early access to filings in exchange for narrative control. Again, these are unverified, but that hasn't stopped the speculation. Blake's legal team responded by subpoenaing the full Discord logs. And just like that,
saying things like, "We can bury her." I mean, how many celebrities have been buried in Hollywood?
You're absolutely right. It is a terrible thing to say to any industry that you're in. Any good publicist will be sitting there and try to be meticulous to really find the ways of how your client will be exonerated or how your client is going to move forward. The number one thing when you get into trouble or when you are faced with a crisis, if you did it or anything remotely to it, the biggest thing you can do and the most...
Katie Joy went from commentator to potential co-conspirator. News outlets like Variety and The Daily Beast picked up the story, framing it as a dangerous precedent. Are YouTubers now part of the litigation process?
Got enough money and resources, you can do this to anyone you want?
You could destroy anyone. Absolutely. There is absolutely evidence that something was afoot there. And what I mean by that is there were, recently created accounts at that time that just focused on her, that was attacking her, not the movie, but her.
Fox News host Megyn Kelly addressed it in a scathing segment. If these allegations are true, this isn't journalism. This is propaganda, and it's being laundered through the lens of internet fame. Even the New York Times got involved, running a headline that read, "When influencers become evidence, the new frontier of trial by internet."
Tens of thousands of accounts set up, and being able to communicate and engage with humans in a way that you can't really tell that they're bots. So if you're on your timeline and you're seeing negative things pumped out about Blake Lively, for example, about her not caring about domestic violence victims or something along that line, you're like, oh my gosh, she's a terrible person. And you may decide, you know what, I'm going to give her a piece of my mind. Now, that's the whole goal of this, is to start off with something that's artificial, and hopefully it grows to be organic. And when that happens, it's a powder cake. I will compare it to terrorism. You're being terrorized.
But the most damning detail? A footnote in the court filings revealed that a burner email used to send Katie an anonymous tip was traced back to a domain owned by a company previously contracted by Baldoni's production.
The way that both sides and their lawyers are speaking and acting right now, I don't know which one will flinch first.
Surely you just cut your losses at this point.
Both Justin and Blake see them fighting on this point of principle. So I really feel that both sides are looking at themselves as the aggrieved individuals that's fighting.
Production team. Now, it's not just about YouTube drama. It's about obstruction. It's about conspiracy. And if it's proven that Baldoni's team used Katie Joy to push disinformation into the public sphere, then this case could spiral into something far beyond defamation. We're talking felony. Witness tampering.
In film, we always want our work to have a meaningful impact. And a lot of us in film do it because we care. And to see it be overtaken by this was definitely a little bit sad.
This is a saga that's not ending anytime soon. It's not going away. What would you want to see happen right now?
It'd be nice if everybody could put their swords down, you know, and acknowledge their part in it and get along. But we don't really live in that world, right? It's a little too late for that. So I hope that the truth comes out, you know. I hope that the innocent parties are proven as innocent and we move on.
Possible perjury, ethics violations that could cost attorneys their licenses. For Blake Lively, this may just be the break she needed. After months of being painted as unstable, controlling, or too emotional, this subpoena scandal has shifted the public tide. Suddenly, she's not the aggressor. She's the victim of a coordinated media campaign, and the receipts are piling up. Meanwhile, Without a Crystal Ball's channel is in chaos. Views are plummeting, comments are locked, and sources close to her say she's preparing for the worst. This isn't just a cautionary tale about celebrity feuds or internet fame. It's a warning shot across the bow of every creator covering public drama. Because when commentary becomes evidence and gossip becomes strategy, you're not just making content, you're playing with fire. And this time, someone might actually get burned.
The Blake Lively story. This is so interesting to me. So, as the audience knows, there's this death match going on between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, with whom she made the movie It Ends With Us, a film about domestic abuse. She tried to claim that he sexually harassed her on set. He hired my lawyer, Brian Friedman, from my dispute with NBC, and fought back, like, fiercely, saying, I never harassed her a single day. She's a psychopath. And she's made this stuff up. She's making this stuff up because she wanted to wrest control of the movie away from me. And I let her to a large extent, but not to the extent she wanted. And ultimately, she did get control of the movie and then tried to ruin my life. So that's kind of where it is. Cross suits. He sued the New York Times for defamation, too, because they wrote a very sympathetic article about her and what a victim she is. Well, one of her allegations was that, well, let me show you the scene. We cut it. Part of it. It's where her character gives birth in the movie It Ends With Us. Now, let's just watch it first.
Instead, Elfair cries foul that the campaign came to light and seeks to punish and retaliate against Jones. And Jones works for compelled disclosures, this effort to chill disclosure, shift blame, and distance itself from its own conduct and its own founders. Blatant harassment is offensive. Okay, so I know a lot of people are really upset that anyone under these laws can make a claim and it can be protected, but the laws exist for victims.
For about 2 seconds, there's a doctor down, what comedian was it? Johnny Bench, like Johnny Bench in between the legs, getting ready to catch the baby. Was it Bill Cosby? Who was it who did that bit? Anyway, so her complaint alleges that that was one of the moments in which she got harassed because she says she was, here, I'll read you from the lawsuit. On the day of shooting that scene, Mr. Baldoni and his business partner, Mr. Heath, suddenly pressured Ms. Lively to simulate full nudity, despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, in her contract, or previous discussions. Claimed that Baldoni insisted that women do give birth naked. I mean, do they? Other than like a water birth, like what woman is like, yeah, take it off, take it all off. Woo! No, that's how it happens in there. You got your gown, and the gown, they hike it up.
Okay. And most people don't lie when they come forth with claims, and the challenge here in this case is that if Blake Lively perceives she was sexually harassed, that's her perception. Even if we don't believe what she thinks is sexual harassment, Okay, even if she claims that someone looking her in the eye is sexual harassment, or even if she claims that Mr. Baldoni tried to add sex content that she didn't agree to, or there wasn't an...
But you got a little something on. Okay, anyway. He insisted that women give birth naked, to which she disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest. When the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, she says, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes. Baldoni failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through, while Miss Lively was partially nude from below the chest down, with her legs spread wide in stirrups, and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Ms. Lively was not provided with anything with which to cover herself between
intimacy coordinator, and even if there's disputed facts right now, she still has the claim that it exists, and she can perceive it as sexual harassment. But it's still not be sexual harassment under the law, and where we would be found liable, it's like completely skewed in that way. With that said, there are some things that are questionable in what Baldoni and Highsteam did because of the implication of what she was making allegations about. And I know that his supporters and people that support him...
non-essential crew to pass through, while Miss Lively was partially nude from below the chest down, with her legs spread wide in stirrups, and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Ms. Lively was not provided with anything with which to cover herself between takes until after she had made multiple requests. She became even more alarmed when Baldoni introduced his, quote, best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, claimed typically a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. She felt the selection of Baldoni's friend for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitals for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. However, guys, as you know, because you prepared for today, that actor, Adam Monshine, has now spoken out, and he's got a bone to pick with Blake Lively's description of what happened on that set. Arthur, you want to take it from there?
Will say, well, they knew it was false. They knew she was just leveraging this to get what she wanted, so they're looking at this as it was all fake to get power, and I totally get that. But even so, some of the text messages that did come out that could be problematic for them have to do with them joking about her calling him a sexual predator talk, joking about the lingering kisses, and sort of making light of the things that she complained about. Part of the problem for me in this situation is that under the law, instead of hiring a crisis PR team to manage the crisis that he found himself in, what Baldoni probably should have done was consulted a lawyer, and instead of having a team manage the online chatter and defend himself.
Well, first of all, the actor, he's the one who's like the Shakespearean trained actor. I mean, he basically says that's not what happened, and it was very professional. The scene was very professional, and like nothing was untoward, and it was a big nothing burger, and they're making this.
And she was clothed. He says she was wearing clothing. He said her costume included a full hospital gown, black shorts, and torso-covering prosthetic to make her appear pregnant, in addition to whatever personal garments she chose.
Yeah, so it's not too good when you have the guy who was there saying this is not the truth. And I think a big point, though, he's a legitimate actor. I forget his name, but it begins with an M, who's saying this. Like, he's a legitimate guy. So who doesn't
Yeah,
seem to have
no,
a horse race?
she is making it sound like, Arthur was the director of this scene and he got his buddy Lawrence Taylor to come by to play the OBGYN. Hey, Blake Lively's going to be naked. Get in here, LT. This is not what happened. This
That's a great
guy,
example.
which I understand everyone wants to defend themselves in the media, and he's going up against a huge star who has a lot more visibility than he does, and more power in Hollywood. I totally understand that, but I don't think that some of the advice that these PR teams gave him were good. I don't think there should have been any discussion about speaking about the situation, period. When it came to the claims of sexual harassment, I don't think that shifting the focus to Ryan would have been a good thing. I don't think shifting the focus to Blake, and again, they say that none of this was implemented, right? So they deny this happened, and because Blake Lively's case is so heavily focused on the smear campaign, and the damages are linked to the smear campaign, what she's really doing with this lawsuit isn't necessarily about sexual harassment. It's about the retaliation. The retaliation component is probably the weakest part of her case because thus far she hasn't put out evidence.
never complained or expressed discomfort at any point because nothing unusual or improper occurred. It was extremely professional. And of course, he was there for all of it because he was playing the OB right between the legs. He called Lively's insinuations about his acting qualifications offensive, as his bona fides are easily searchable online, and says, by the way, I was actually a local hire. My wife and I are from New York, and we spend significant time there, and apparently that's where the scene was shot, and said if I'm called to testify in this case, I will answer truthfully. And he says, in particular, I will note that Ms. Lively was not, quote, nearly nude in the scene we shot together. So here's the takeaway. You tell me what you think. This is how Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni are going to win this case. You don't have to take all 20 of her allegations. Pick your top 4, right? And show. You don't have to take Baldoni's word on the birth scene. Listen to Adam Monshine.
To prove that one happened. It doesn't mean that some of the text messages weren't shady. I mean, some of the things they said are not very nice. Even if you don't like Blake Lively, right? They're probably frustrated. It's a high-stress situation, I get it. But the sexual harassment claims that she brought were remedied by the point agreement. And she claimed that after the fact of that agreement, everything on the set was fine. So really the fight will become, and the damages will be related to not the sexual harassment, in my opinion, but to the smear campaign. And the New York Times article was heavily focused on that smear campaign. The problem with this retaliation situation is that